Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Hi there, I'm John Riley and I'll be your guide to this episode of MTN Outdoors. I'm here at Spring Meadow Lake where it's full-on baby season. There's goslings abound, although their parents don't want me to get much closer than I currently am. Now we've got a great episode for you today. We look at elk, bears, and ticks, oh my. But first, let's start off with the opening of wildlife management areas in the state, as Zach Volheim reports.
The 2024 shed hunt has officially begun, and people have come out in droves to try to get their fair share of the shed.
We're out here like everybody else to find a treasure.
Starting now, all wildlife management areas are now open, and the public is allowed to enter them to find the treasures that they may desire. These treasures often come in the form of antlers, shed from elk and deer as the spring begins and they start to grow a new rack. The shed antlers can be found all over the wildlife management areas, and some are known, like the Blackfoot Clearwater area, to have an abundance scattered around. And for some, this is a lifelong tradition.
Well, I've been in my mom's stomach the first year I came, so ever since then, 18 years.
People that participate in the shed hunt in the Blackfoot Clearwater WMA have a tradition of going all out, often camping out and bringing along special help. Besides those who hunt, there's also Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks out and about making sure the event runs smoothly.
It's a lot of work to set this up and get it going and make sure it runs smooth, and there's a big safety factor.
There are several dangerous factors that come into play when shed hunting, such as wildlife, like grizzly bears getting in the way. Besides that, there's also just common hazards like tripping while walking through the forest. So if you do decide to go and participate in the shed hunt this year, make sure you're prepared before you go. In Seeley Lake, I'm Zach Volheim, MTN News.
With warmer nights, lots of people are thinking about getting out and doing some camping. Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks has lots of camping opportunities around the state. Some of those campsites are reservable. Some of those are first come, first serve, like these here on the Yellowstone.
Only campsites at state parks are reservable. There are campsites at fishing access sites as well, places like Loch Levin and many others in this part of the state. They have campsites as well, but they are non-reservable for fishing access sites and wildlife management areas at this time.
FWP campsites can only be used for a maximum of 7 nights. Camping fees go to the upkeep on the campgrounds and must be paid for each night of your stay. As for the camping spot you choose, work to make sure the next camper has no idea you were ever there.
Is leave no trace. When you come camping, leave it better than how you found it. You know, fortunately at a place like this, it's well developed. There's latrines, there's garbage cans, there's campfire rings and picnic tables. Make sure you leave them in good shape because that really makes for an enjoyable experience for everyone and helps take care of these public resources that we really enjoy so much.
And as we get into the heat of summer, remember, only build fires in approved camp rings, and no Fish, Wildlife, and Parks property ever allows fireworks. And keep your pets in your camp spot, not roaming around the entire campground. South of Livingston, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Earlier this year, the EPA made a ruling to tighten its restrictions on air pollution for the first time since 2012. It's a decision that's become widely discussed, especially here in Montana, as it will have a great impact on the Colstrip power plant. Since the 1970s, the Colstrip generating plant has been providing power to much of the region, but that has come at a cost.
My concern as a pulmonologist is the health effects of air quality.
Emissions and large plumes of smoke have spewed many toxins into the environment.
Colstrip is not one of the largest emitters, it is the largest emitter.
The plant actually does so at a rate higher than any other place in the country, a massive concern for many, like Billings Clinic pulmonologist Robert Merchant.
If you care about people's health, it's very alarming. Throughout the region are breathing in these emissions, and the consequences of that are very scary.
Merchant was just one of a number of healthcare professionals meeting Tuesday to applaud a recent ruling from the EPA that is looking to put limitations on emissions containing mercury, arsenic, and other toxins. If passed, plants like Colstrip would be mandated to update their facilities with devices intended to reduce harmful emissions getting into the air.
People are very concerned about what's going to happen next.
But not everyone is thrilled with the ruling. Colstrip resident and former Montana Representative Dwayne Ankney says the town fears what will happen should the plant close and eliminate thousands of jobs.
Most certainly it's on everybody's mind. I think a lot of these concerns over health issues are not well founded.
One of the Colstrip plant's main owners, Northwestern Energy, seemingly agrees. The company released a statement regarding the ruling, saying, quote, "The Colstrip plant is well maintained." The statement also questions what forced improvements, which could cost $500 million, would do for the plant's future. The inability to utilize Colstrip will likely push our already stressed transmission system beyond its capability.
There's a worry if the plant shuts down, then Colstrip don't have any water.
A town worried for its future amidst a heated debate.
We need energy, yet we need to, as a society, we need to do it in a way that harms the fewest people.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Pull the front of the cap there. Yep.
There's no capsaicin in these bottles, the active deterrent and ingredient in bear spray, but this demonstration serves as a hands-on way to prepare Montanans for an encounter of the worst kind.
People seem to be most primarily concerned with human safety. Everyone's nervous that their kids could get hurt by a bear. In the past few years, we've definitely seen an uptick in grizzly bear presence right in the surrounding area of Fairfield.
Bears are solitary creatures and fiercely territorial. Many are moving from the mountains to find space of their own, following waterways through the Rocky Mountain front. In early April, a grizzly bear was sighted in the Bear Paw Mountains, just south of the Rocky Boy Reservation and over 100 miles from usual habitat. In mid-March, a male grizzly bear was euthanized by FWP near Sims, just south of Fairfield.
Grizzly bears are moving eastward. Bears are expanding outside of the recovery corridor and moving eastward through our river bottoms and really moving far east quickly. And there's nothing we can do to prevent that, but we can certainly try to help people deal with it as bears are moving out east.
FWP with a few tips on how to mitigate bear encounters. Keep livestock dogs such as Anatolian shepherds. Make sure grain bins are sealed, use a latch if need be, and make sure no excess grain is left out. Keep bird feeders out of reach of bears. Bears learn quickly to avoid areas through strong association. Heat-sensing alarms and electric fences will keep a bear away for good. FWP can help.
We like to do things like cleaning up a grain spill or removing livestock carcasses from a bone pit or setting up electric fencing rather than just catching the bear over and over again, relocating it, and having the same problem occur again.
Get familiar with your local FWP region and offices if you have concerns over potential bear encounters. I pray I never have to use bear spray, but if I do, I'll be ready. From Fairfield, Owen Skornik-Hayes, MTN News.
Coming up after the break, we learn more about ticks, which brings us to this week's trivia. Ticks in Montana can carry a number of diseases, but one disease in particular led to the creation of a nationally renowned lab near Hamilton. The name of that disease coming up after the break.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. So do you know the name of the tick-borne illness that led to the creation of the lab near Hamilton? Originally called black measles, Rocky Mountain spotted fever is a serious bacterial infection that in severe cases can lead to hearing loss, amputation, and even death if not treated. The disease was prominent in the Bitterroot area in the late 1800s, which eventually led to the creation of the Rocky Mountain Laboratory to study the disease. Recent rain and sudden heat means you'll want to watch out for ticks, not just yourself, but also your pets, as MTN's Andrea Lutz found out.
On a beautiful day at Two Moon Park.
She loves being outside. She loves swimming.
You'll find Kalia Romero and her pup, Bella.
She loves getting in the bath.
That's a good thing for Bella because ticks are likely lurking in these tall grasses and trees.
Definitely places like this, anywhere where there's water.
It's why Dr. Edie Best with Billings Family Animal Hospital says now's the time to act to prevent those ticks.
They're icky. That's all I can say.
First, how do they get embedded in your pet?
They don't jump, they do what's called quest. So when a dog walks by or a person walks by, they just sort of let themselves fall and then they land on whatever's walking by.
Dr. Bess says in Montana, the biggest worry is Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So prevention is your best bet.
So there's a variety of topicals that you put on their back, and then that liquid sort of disperses over the body. There's the other products, which are oral products, which are the monthly preventatives, and then they are just in their system.
And if a tick is already embedded in your pet's skin, she says, here's what to do.
I know they're gross and you just want to get them off as fast as you can. So get as close to the skin, as you can, and then just pull slowly.
For Kalia and Bella, after an outing, tick checks are a must.
But when we do go up to the Heights Dog Park, I always check her because there are some bushes up there that they love to dig. They love to be in them.
She says looking through those hard to see places, like ears and armpits.
You really got to dig in there. They like to hide mostly behind his ears. The tick prevention is I think, necessary.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Prickly Pear Land Trust, together with Fort Harrison, are currently working on a conservation project that, if passed, would help conserve Bird's Eye Ranch.
We've been partnering with the Montana Army National Guard on projects like this since 2015, and it's one of the best partners, proudest partners, and just pure joy working with them.
On April 18th, the Lewis and Clark County Commission opened a 30-day comment period to allow PPLT to use $1 million from the county's open space bond to purchase nearly 1,500 acres of land in the Bird's Eye area. This land sits adjacent to Fort Harrison. The Department of Defense would pay for part of the land through their ACUB, or Army Compatible Use Buffer Program. Other money would come from the Montana Fish and Wildlife Conservation Trust. PPLT would provide an in-kind donation of all project management services. Colonel Kelly Trainum, Construction and Facilities Management Officer for Montana Army National Guard, says securing this property is about maintaining the fort's ability to operate as usual, without disturbing property owners if the area was turned over to developers.
More houses, more neighbors could restrict on what we could do, how we can train, and maybe possibly even hours we could train. So this, by having this in open space, allows us to continue our 24/7 training mission that we have.
Having partnered together on multiple projects in the past, such as the 10-mile and 7-mile projects, Mary Hollow, Executive Director of PPLT, is excited for this renewed invigoration of a similar goal.
The state is changing really rapidly, and in the face of that change, it's really important that we protect land at great rates right now if we're going to accomplish the basic objectives for things like wildlife habitat and outdoor recreation and agriculture economy of scale.
If acquired, Hollow says this land has the potential for grazing and public access. The comment period ends May 17th, and the commission will vote on May 21st.
Reporting in Helena, Tom Buchanan, MTN News.
Just outside of Cody, Wyoming, you will find the Buffalo Bill Dam. When this was completed in 1910, it was considered an engineering marvel. And more than a century later, it is still quite the sight to see, as well as an important provider of power and irrigation water in this part of Wyoming.
It was the tallest concrete arch dam in the world when it was completed in 1910.
Called an engineering marvel, the dam originally stood at 325 feet, but was later extended 25 more.
And at that time, it was the tallest dam in the world.
The view from the top is nothing short of spectacular. To the west, the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. To the east, visitors can look down 280 feet into the Shoshone River. The dam itself is a testimony to American ingenuity and backbreaking labor. That history on display at the Visitor Center.
And it's a very interesting story about how the dam was built and the struggles that they encountered back in the day.
And there were a lot of struggles.
Everything was done by hand. pickaxe.
A river had to be diverted, a canyon walled off, there were labor shortages and strife. It was hard and dangerous work.
7 workers did lose their lives.
But 5 years later, Buffalo Bill Dam, first known as Shoshone Dam, was complete, and it would change the future of this area.
There was a government direction to get people to come to the west. And to do that, people had to be able to have water so they could farm and survive. So that was the originating thought, really, of building this project.
Some power is produced, but most importantly, the water from this dam irrigates around 93,000 acres of farmland in the Bighorn Basin. The Buffalo Bill Dam is on the National Register of Historic Places. It is also recognized as a National Civil Engineering Landmark.
Just the fact that they were able to accomplish this so long ago, that in and of itself is impressive, what they did back then and then what they've done since in preserving the history of what went into this, and not just the dam itself, but just all of the information about the local area was very informative as well.
More than a century after it was constructed, the Buffalo Bill Dam remains an engineering marvel with an incredible story behind it. Near Cody, Russ Riesinger, MTN News.
Coming up after the break, we see how a Montana man is keeping historic farming methods alive and its bee business in Butte.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. Bees play an important role in our ecosystem, and there's a Butte organization who's in the business of feeding bees, as Megan Thomas reports.
Humans rely on bees for producing honey and pollinating plants, but right here in Butte, a factory is dedicated to producing food for the bees.
Bees are the most common pollinator of plants and vegetables. We need to have them pollinating so plants will continue to thrive and grow.
Shay Claremont is the Butte plant manager for Global Patties, a family-owned business that creates pollen supplements for honeybees that serves commercial and hobby beekeepers across the United States. Together with their plant in Alberta, Canada, the pollen supplements are keeping bees across North America well fed.
Natural pollen is only available for a limited time of year, so you want to get the bees ready for the natural pollen season, and then, keep working them throughout the season.
According to the Montana Department of Agriculture, Montana typically ranks in the top 5 states for honey production.
When you're a hobbyist or a commercial beekeeper, you're trying to extend the season a little bit so you can get more honey production. And then towards the end of the season, when it's getting colder and you might not be so much looking to make honey, but you've got to feed them and get them ready for the winter time so that they can survive the winter.
Shay says the Butte factory usually produces an average of 3 million pounds of pollen patties a year. In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
This jar of pickled eggs comes from a small homestead in south central Montana, and I was able to purchase it at the Farm Box Farmers Market in Joliet, a stop on the side of the road that's filled with local goods.
It helps keep the money in the community.
Got a strawberry rhubarb pie cookie.
15 years ago, Justin Dye had big dreams.
Actually, in college, I was looking at more farm-to-table operations, and there really wasn't a whole lot going on down in our area at the time.
3 years ago, he made those dreams into reality when he started Farm Box, a year-round farmers market.
To help connect the local growers and producers with the communities that are around us, especially in the rural areas where it becomes a little bit more scarce.
Selling jams, veggies, baked goods, and even cooking up lunch with local meats and produce.
A lot of the consumer doesn't realize how much food is actually grown out their backyard, and that's what Justin is doing, is exposing people to that.
Bonnie Martinell, owner of Boja Farms near Belfry, has run a successful chemical-free orchard for nearly 30 years, but having her produce,
apples, pears, peaches, plums, apricots, cherries,
available at Farm Box is an added plus.
We need people like Justin to market our produce, get it out, teach people how to cook with it.
In peak season, Farm Box showcases up to 15 different local producers, like another successful, well-known business, Speedy and Flo's Sweet Corn.
When I went to Absarki every Sunday, we'd meet up and I would just give him corn, and that's how it started. Better for both of us, I guess.
Yeah,
but Yeah.
It was both way, not just one way.
In addition to their Sunday markets, Dye also offers deliveries. The middleman bringing fresh, local food right to your door.
The world of food's changing in so many ways. People are wanting sourceability. They're wanting to know where their food's coming from, and so we're here to help connect a lot of that.
Redefining local food. In Joliet, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
This John Deere horse-drawn mower may look brand new, but it's actually nearly a century old, and it was recently brought back to life by Jim Quaid.
I was raised on a tractor.
For Jim Quaid, farming comes naturally.
They call it a tumble buggy plow.
Raised on a farm in South Dakota, he was driving tractors before he learned to ride a bike.
I'd go out and mow. Dad had a field of 40 acres of hay.
The 74-year-old is still farming, but recently switched gears.
These old machines are good, you know, and they get the job done.
Refurbishing vintage horse-drawn farming equipment to use on his Roundup property.
This is a lot slower, but it's so much more peaceful, and you get connected with nature so much more.
He recently finished up this John Deere Big 4 mower that he suspects to be nearly a century old.
It's 80, 90 years old.
But his restoration projects go way back to when he was living in Madison, South Dakota, working maintenance at a manufacturing company.
I got a hold of an old McCormick Deering Big 6 mower at the time, and I got that working.
He ended up moving to Buffalo, Wyoming, where he lived for 13 years before moving to Roundup nearly 7 years ago.
Well, after the hay gets cut and spread it on there again.
Now his property is full of vintage farming equipment, waiting to be brought back to life.
The wheels don't turn or nothing, so I do plan on redoing those.
He keeps most of what he restores, but recently found others have interest in purchasing his projects.
This one I have sold to a guy down in southern Wyoming.
Which is simply an added bonus for the man who loves to stay busy.
And see, I had to beef it up because it cracked right there. Always got to have something to do. Whatever it takes to get her done, I get her done, usually.
In Roundup, Kelsey Boggs, MTN News.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of MTN Outdoors. Thanks for joining us. But before we go, here's some baby geese.
They're like, I had one kid actually give me the middle. Sit on the lawn sweeper all summer long.